All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hello and welcome to everyone out there. You are tuning into part 7 of Elite's webinar series on Road to Success. The way this webinar works is that you guys can see me and hear me, but I will not be able to see you or hear you. But if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And if we have time at the end, we'll address your questions. So I hope and trust that all of you are well during this this weird twilight zone like COVID-19 era. Thank you for the introduction from John. My name is Walter Kim, and I'm the branch director of Elite Prep of Fremont. And Fremont, for those of you who don't know, this is the home of Tesla Motors, and it's also voted as the happiest city in America. If you don't believe me, you can Google that after this webinar. And I also want to take this time to thank Elite Prep for giving me this unique opportunity to do this webinar with you today. We had some amazing speakers for the last few weeks. All the topics were very applicable. And I feel like they exhausted a lot of great information. So when I was up next, I was a little bit ambivalent, but there's something that was in my heart for a long time. And I wanted to share this with you. So I'm really, really happy for this opportunity. So today, as topics, I want to say that we'll be covering on just this topic of motivation. What's your source of motivation? And the next is, what changes can you make now that can help you achieve your maximum potential? What practical habits can you start building to keep yourself accountable in the future? And I will also share some vital time-tested perspectives on the critical importance of personal and academic integrity, the parents' significant roles in the student's success, and how seemingly average students, myself included, can still achieve extraordinary accomplishments starting right now. So let's just start. So a little bit about me. I'm married to my best friend, Julia. That's a little shout out to my wife. And the interesting thing about our marriage is that when we met, we couldn't believe it because we were talking and we found out that we have the exact same birthday. Yeah, you heard it right. We have the same birthday. We're born the same day, same year. And after we got married about 15 years ago, we have two beautiful, energetic boys, ages 10 and 8. I love to travel, and I am a seasoned golfer. I'm an avid fisherman, a biker, a backpacker, and a photographer. So that's enough about me. I want to talk about like my, experience with Elite a little bit more now. So with
Hey, Walter. Hey, sorry to jump in.
Yes.
You're not sharing your screen right now. We'd love to see your presentation if we could.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
So let's see here. Apologize for that. Can you guys see me now?
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so here's a picture of my wife and a picture of my kids and all my hobbies. All right, so I joined Elite about 15 years ago, and I've been with Elite Prep of Fremont branch since 2007. And you can see the picture in the top left-hand corner. Well, we started with a very humble beginning. And just looking back at my time at Elite, I remember just countless students and parents who sat across from my desk to seek my counsel about their school grades and class selections, test prep plans and ideas for extracurricular activities, internships, and college application help. So I always remember, all of our perfect scores and those students who worked so hard to get admitted to top tier colleges like Stanford and Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Columbia. And so much more. But the ones I will honestly never forget are the ones who share their personal joys and struggles with me. And in my office, at this very office that I'm sitting in, a lot of laughter and tears were shed. And some of these students have graduated to attend colleges, finish colleges, grad schools. And few of them have already gotten married. And some of them have kids on their own. So, and some of my students became high school teachers. jewelry designers, water toxicologists, Olympic athletes. Actually, one athlete, that's a singular, a famous YouTube content creator. And you'll probably be asking, what about like doctors and lawyers and engineers? We have a whole bunch of those as well. But no wonder, these students, my former students, have already became adults. That explains all the wrinkles in my face. Over the years, I forged some amazing relationships and learned some great life lessons, and I want to share that with you today. So if you are a high school student, I'm so glad you're watching this, and this webinar is for you. If you are a parent watching this, I'm also glad you're here as well. And hopefully the information that I'm providing with you today will be very helpful as we go forward. So let's look at the students. Throughout time, it's never been easy to be a teenager, but pressures have never been so tough as they are today. It's not, we're not talking about just like hormonal effects of going through puberty or, I think teenagers today, growing up in this generation, millennial generation, they suffer from nonstop exposure to social media and internet at such a young age, and my kids included. And internet can be really powerful and useful, and I don't think most of us can live without it at this point. But without proper accountability channels, our children are exposed to on-screen violence, pornography, negative body image, and cyberbullying. And we tell the teenagers all the time to act like mature adults, yet they're not given adult rights. So it's kind of an unfair situation. They don't drive, they don't have cars, a lot of them don't. They don't have full sense of privacy. They don't have financial independence. Sometimes immense pressure comes from parents. And now parents, I know you're watching, and I'm not trying to isolate you or crucify you, so just hold on a minute here. You're not the only culprit, but because the pressure comes from schools and from their own peers and just societal expectations. Talking about school, we're not talking about failing school, meaning like getting C's and D's in school. I think some of our students are worried that they don't have a 4.5 GPA. They're concerned about college admissions. And, the students from California, which I would imagine are the most of you, are especially, living in an area where there's a high cost of living, and parents are always quick to remind them of that. And they know that unless they go to a reputable college and major in something of substance that can, result in a high paying salary, they would not be able to afford to live here. Now that there is also fear of COVID-19, students right now are missing not just the SAT test, they're probably happy about that. They're missing their proms and hanging out with their friends, and they got a major case of FOMO. Teens are dealing with financial stress at home, especially with the COVID-19. I'm sure to see even worse financial situation coming. Some of my students have dealt with domestic violence at home. And, they often tell me they can't find a great role model or a mentor. And, students are starting to show more and more signs of having physical and mental issues, like ADHD, depression, sleep deprivation. And it really pains me to say this, but we've had students that would do self-mutilation. So some students are tempted to begin a very unhealthy patterns with, drugs, sex, and alcohol. Now, even if you are completely shielded by the problems that I mentioned on my previous slide, the following is a real account of a local 10th grader student in Fremont on a typical given day. And this is something that was written to me and I asked for this, and it was done before COVID-19 shelter in place happened. So here you go. This is written by a student. I stayed up late last night until midnight to finish up my group project. I woke up early at 6 a.m. to review my notes for chem honors and pre-calc honors. I think I did okay on my chem quiz, but I totally bombed my pre-calc quiz. And that teacher, so unfair and so hard. I thought I was pretty good at math, but why am I struggling right now? During lunchtime, I went to a DECA meeting, and as we're planning for an upcoming competition. Afterwards, I swung by the Interact Club before they ended their meeting to sign up for the upcoming fundraiser event. School ended at 3 p.m., but I stayed after class to ask this teacher for a rec letter for this upcoming summer program and internships. She seemed a little bit annoyed that I asked her. Maybe a whole bunch of students asked her before me. Then I have soccer practice at 4 until 6. Unless we have a game, then we finish much later. Hopefully, I'll get home around like 7-ish. I'll wash up, eat dinner because I'm going to be famished. Start my homework hopefully by 8. But I'm so exhausted. I got to study for tomorrow's history quiz and Spanish oral test. I got to do my English reading assignments and outline the chapters 15 through 17 for my world history notes and more group projects. Now I got to finish writing up that article for my journalism. I'm writing about that boba shop in Fremont. That's due in 2 days. If I have time, I'll study for the AP tests that I signed up for because all my friends are signed up for it. And I have to start on that subject test book that my mom bought me. Oh, she's going to kill me if I don't look at it. Maybe this weekend. Then I go to bed and it's all over again the next day. So I hope you guys heard that excerpt from a student. And did you guys get exhausted from just listening to that account? I really feel bad for our students. Despite all the negative sadness attached to COVID-19 and all the lives it's taken, in a weird way, I'm a bit relieved for our students that they can get some breathing room from all of this right now. So if you are a high school student, you're going to be stressed and worried about your future. So like this girl here who might be getting a straight A in all 5 of her classes, or you can be this guy who got the perfect score, one of around 300 students per year who gets a perfect score on the SATs. You can be the most popular kid in school, envied by everybody, all your friends. And you can be a nationally ranked athlete getting scouted by multiple top-tier colleges. So no matter who you are, students will be always under stress. Now, I can prove to you that having success or having money and stability is not going to fix your stress or your worry. One of my good friend who graduated from one of the highest ranked colleges in America was also part of their computer science PhD program. And for anonymity's sake, I won't say which school, but the school sounds like Mumford. He eventually sold his company he co-founded for hundreds of millions of dollars, literally hundreds of millions of dollars. But I vividly remember him telling me afterwards that his stress level is gone up the roof. And it's because he felt burdened by this huge responsibility of managing his new financial windfall gain. And he was stressed out about it. I mean, it's a pretty nice problem to have, but he was telling me he couldn't go to sleep and he was not doing too well. So the point is that even if you're rich and famous, no matter how well off you are, you're not immune to the pressures of getting into college or being worried about your future. And as you can see from all the stuff that happened with the college admissions scandal. Now, the main topic today is about motivation. Students often tell me, I don't feel motivated. And even if they don't feel motivated, they don't tell me, and I can see it from their actions. Parents are always telling me, how can I help my kid to become more motivated? Can you help? Do you have any tips for my kid? And teachers would also say, we started off really well, and now we're starting to lose their motivation. It's waning at this time. Now, if you're a student, please think of this question. Where is your motivation coming from? And please take some time to think about it. Is it internal or external? There's a fancy word to explain the external motivation, which is called extrinsic motivation. which is motivated to perform an activity to earn a reward or avoid punishment. Think about if that's you. Now, there's intrinsic motivation, which is motivated to perform an activity for its own sake and personal rewards. Okay. So this external or extrinsic motivation comes from wanting something at the end of the tunnel, such as getting better grades, getting into colleges, receiving praise from your parents, teachers, and friends. It also makes you want to avoid punishment and embarrassment. And if you're a student attending a competitive high school, and I think that some of you guys are, then ultimately the source of your motivation is fear. Fear of disappointment, fear of losing trust and respect, which creates even more pressure. And most of our brains aren't really made naturally to work under pressure. This is why people do silly things. That makes us absolutely no sense. And I want to use this word silly instead of stupid because I want to play nice. And please remember this point. We're going to come back to it. So going back to the topic of motivation, they say that the best jobs in the world are the ones you go in every day and you don't feel like you're working. And how amazing is that? You get to do something that you love and you get paid for it. That's in an ideal world, students shouldn't feel forced to do anything, including studies. Students should realize on their own how to balance their lives by developing an internal motivation without the external motivation. You see, this scenario plays out all the time. Maybe you know people like this. Parents pressure their kids to study and they finally get into college, but really based on the merit of the parents' external motivation. Now, being on their own with all their independence, students start to party and cut classes, and they start falling off the academic map. They will eventually end up in a place called AP. Now, this AP might share the same acronym as the high school AP, but one is academic probation versus advanced placement classes. So do not get those two things mixed up. Now, these students don't have the internal forces to keeping them down grounded in college once the external forces leave them. Remember, their external forces are back at home with their parents. So can you change the source of motivation? That's the $1,000,000 question. And if you have an answer to this question, feel free to comment on the box. Well, I personally believe that a student must internalize why they study. Is it simply just to satisfy or impress their parents or somebody else and get people off their backs or get certain recognition? This is very important. You students have to dig deep and find your inner drive and inner identity apart from these external factors. Once you discover internal motivation and purpose for your life, and once you get a taste of this internal drive, this is going to follow you no matter where you go for the rest of your life. So one of my favorite quotes is from Clement Stone. He's an American billionaire and philanthropist. He was 100 years old when he passed away back in 2002. So this guy had money, knowledge, and he lived a long life as a centurion. So I would imagine he knew a thing or two about being successful. His famous quote is, "Little hinges swing big doors." Now, how little things like, things may seem minuscule and insignificant can make all the big difference at the end. Maybe that sounds almost like a Hollywood movie or like a Disney animation, like Finding Nemo. Let's invert that truth. So you can do all the big things right, but the little things can also prevent you from getting to your goal. I'm going to repeat that one time. So you can do all the big things right, but the little things can prevent you from attaining your goal. So example, like I remember saving up money for a while when I was a kid to buy a Nintendo game, and I was about $5 short. And because of that, I couldn't buy it. You hear about, trekkers, on their way to Mount Everest, trying to summit, and literally short distances away from summiting, they would die. They would freeze to death. And it comes down to their inability to breathe because their lungs are not strong enough, or they don't have the right clothing, or they got a bad luck of weather, or they ran out of food or determination. Little things can make a huge difference. So I want to start out with what you can do to change. So how can you change to achieve your maximum potential? So point number one is it starts with taking ownership. So don't blame your parents for not paying for a new MacBook Pro or sending you to a less rigorous private school where you can get easy A's. Don't blame your teacher for not being able to teach you the subject or not rounding up your 89.8% to an A. There are students who, I'm not talking about students that are, getting C's, who are getting, C's in half their classes and blaming their teachers for their demise. They're not owning up to their mistakes and working on their problems. I also don't want you to blame your friends for getting you into Pokemon Go or into drugs. And don't blame your group project classmates for slacking off. You can grumble about them not pulling their weight, but ultimately, you are partly responsible for the success of the entire project. Don't forget that you have the power to influence the direction of your project, to help motivate others, and to improve team chemistry and dynamics. Secondly, I think that students need to work on their organization. Do you have missed assignments because you're so disorganized and you forgot to remind yourself and you missed deadlines? You can use student planners, sticky notes, and Google Calendars to remind you and combat forgetfulness and disorganization. This organization will directly affect your motivation and time management as well. They're all intricately connected. So imagine a student with disheveled binders, with pieces of paper spewing out, and all their notes are illegible. Those students will have a really tough time bringing themselves together to want to study. This brings me to my next point, which is your study environment. Your environment is critical. Do you study in your own messy room with your laptop open, lying on your bed, music blasting, watching YouTube videos, keeping up with your social media accounts while playing video games on your phone and checking out your fridge every 15 minutes? I mean, it's like somebody who is looking at a cluttered kitchen and don't feel the motivation to start cooking or eating there. Or it's like visiting a very unsanitary restroom and not wanting to use the restroom, no matter how bad you have to go, number one. How about this? Which environment do you prefer? Now, here are some tips to create an ideal study environment for you. Pick a favorite place. It could be a place that has great feng shui or mojo, whatever you call it, whatever appeals to you. Ideally somewhere at home that's easily accessible. Now, if your home is not clean anywhere and it's impossible to keep it clean, you don't have to be at home when you study. And I will give you an example of that later on. Number two, you should turn off your phone and put your phone on an airplane mode or place it far away from you, because you're going to be inundated with incoming texts, Instagram notifications, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. I'm not sure people use Facebook anymore, but Facebook messages at least. It will only take time away from you. If you're determined to focus and get stuff done, you have to get rid of all these distractions, even to the point of deleting your apps. I know it's a shock to you guys. I want you to also find a way for you to get comfortable at home where you study, but not too comfortable, because like wearing PJs on the bed, and that's going to lead you to sleep, not get stuff done. There are students out there who is blasting away their music. Maybe you should turn off your music, especially music with words that can distract you when you're reading something important. Stick with maybe no music or classical music or even ambient noise. You can download those apps with, like a really peaceful rainstorm or rainforest or frogs chirping. You should also keep it positive by reminding yourself that studying is actually fun and interesting. It will make you smarter if you study smarter. Put your favorite quotes or your beloved, personal picture or plants around you to promote that positive vibe. If you have a desk that looks like this, it's not going to give you positive vibes. And reward yourself with yummy snacks, from time to time. But of course, don't overdo that because that's not good for you either. Now, I have a pro tip for you. Don't associate your study place to do other things like watching Netflix videos or calling your friend or doing something that has nothing to do with studies. Use your study area as a sacred area. It's a study sanctuary. So I want to give you an example of a girl, this is a true story from last year, who I met in spring semester. So she was able to give me her grades from the first semester, and she received straight Bs, including PE class. And the funny thing is she got actually B pluses in every single one of her classes. And I said to her, my goodness, like you really got unlucky with your grades. You're borderline in every class. And unfortunately, without taking any weighted classes, she was getting a 3.0 GPA with that. And later on, I was able to connect with her and her mom after the summer. And then she showed me her grades from the second semester, and she got straight A's. And I was so happy for her. And I was very elated. And I was very surprised. So I had to ask her, like, what did you do? What was your secret? What difference did you make? Like, did you do anything different? And she said to me, I just changed my environment. I don't study in my room anymore, where I just get really comfortable and tired and I sleep. And I also decided not to do my main bulk of studying at home because I just get too distracted. So I found this amazing cafe not too far from my house. And it's a place where none of my friends really hang out, so I don't really get bothered by them. And they sell my favorite boba tea, and they have my favorite green waffles. And I get to just order the snack and the drink that I want, and I just get in the groove. And I really enjoy studying there, and I just love it. So I find myself go there every day, and I'm so happy. I get stuff done so efficiently and effectively. I'm done in fraction of the time that I would normally take to get stuff done. And really, that's what I changed. And also, I got rid of some distracting applications like, Instagram and Facebook. I only have Facebook Messenger to have my friends message me for group projects and whatnot, but that's pretty much it. I'm a lot more efficient. That's a true story. My next point, number 4, is your time management. And I was going to put this as a number 1 topic, but I thought you really need to work on the previous topics to be able to do time management. You can't just decide to do time management and be better manager of your time. So they're all intricately intertwined with motivation, organization, study environment. And those things have to be properly set in place for you to be able to manage your time wisely. So one thing that I want to tell students is you need to know your window of opportunity, what you can get done, how long that window of opportunity is, especially in your busy schedule. If you're an athlete or you are heavily involved in extracurricular activities and you get home at a later time, your window of opportunity has shrunken. I interviewed a graduating senior from UC Berkeley for a chemistry position. This is a few years back, and I still remember this interview because this particular individual got a perfect 4.0 GPA from UC Berkeley with a degree in chemistry in the College of Chemistry, is a BS degree. And I was just, wow, that's amazing. How do you get a 4.0 from UC Berkeley? A minus would not give him a 4.0 GPA. And better yet, he even got into UCSF Med School in his first application season. And I was so intrigued with this individual. So I asked this person, how did you do that? Like, what was your secret? How did you get straight A's in UC Berkeley? And he said quickly right away, he responded, simple, time management. And I was like, okay, can you elaborate more? When my friends were out having fun, partying, I managed my time. I got my stuff done. I had my fun too, but I knew when I could study, when I needed to study, and I was very, very strict, and I stuck by it throughout the whole 4 years. And he also gave me tips on, yeah, I also found out by talking to a lot of great people older than me, what classes I can take, pass, no pass, that I needed for med school. And because some semesters I had less number of semesters that I had to get grade versus pass, no pass, I was able to focus on the grading class and not put as much effort in the pass, no pass class. And that's how I was able to get straight A's. But mainly it's really time management. All right, so what I think you should do to work on your time management is this. Number one, list everything that you have to do and prioritize them by significance. So like whether it's the paper that's due next day or the bio quiz 2 days from now, or the article you have to finish, like that girl at the end of the week, you need to prioritize. And if there's any time wasters, get rid of them. You gotta, number two, plan ahead with this to-do list. Number three, you have to establish a routine. We are all creatures of habit. The fact that you guys wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is to go to a sink and brush your teeth. I hope you guys do that in the morning. That's because you are a creature of habit. This is the reason why when you don't work out for a long time and you try to work out, it's really hard. It will take every ounce of your energy in your body to get yourself up to work out. But once you keep doing it, even though it's tough, and you stick to your routine consistently, it will get easier and easier. That's how you create a habit. Number four, avoid procrastination. So, we're all guilty of this. I myself had to procrastinate a little bit preparing you with this slide presentation. But I know a lot of our students deal with this. They will wait until the very last minute. Sometimes they will even wake up in the morning of when an assignment is due or when they have to study for the test for that day. Some students will even wait until they get to school and study for their quizzes between the periods or during lunchtime because they know they have a later period quiz. We have to get rid of that kind of attitude. You guys should also, number five, tackle small and easier tasks first to get the momentum going. Sometimes when you're looking at a big daunting task, you're just like, I don't even want to go there. But once you start tackling smaller chores or smaller assignments, easier assignments, you're like, okay, I got that done. I already checked off 2 of my boxes. Now I got a great momentum going. Okay, now I'm going to tackle this thing because I want to get this thing off my list. So that's a great tactic. And lastly, you need to ask yourself, do you manage your time well enough to allow yourself to sleep and to function optimally and stay healthy? When I see some of the students here on weekends, they look like literally zombies. And I do get it that they're, they have a lot on their plate, but some of the students, they kind of put that on themselves by getting distracted and playing games till late night or watching YouTube videos and losing track of time. They don't set a time limit for their fun breaks. And because of that, they're not optimized and they don't have effective way to get things done. You guys can do some research online about this, but there's methods like Pomodoro method, where you break down any piece of work that you have to do in increments of 25 minutes. And then you give yourself a 5-minute break. And so let's just say you have to read 4 chapters of bio. And you can say to yourself, okay, I know that's going to take me about, 2 hours. So it's going to be about 4 Pomodoros. And so you stick to it. Okay, I'm going to be able to put in 2 of my Pomodoros right after dinner. Once I take a break, I'll do 2 more Pomodoros and I'll be done with that assignment. So you guys can try that. It might work for you, might not work for you, but you got to keep trying these new methods that has worked for people. And second point to that is, what do you do in your spare time? So I'm not talking about spare time meaning like, your play time, But what do you do when you're done with your schoolwork and you do play? What do you do outside of that? Because that time that you spend in this spare time is what you might be doing later on. It will directly impact what you do later on. So things like learning how to code on your spare time, maybe a language, you can tackle it and you'll get through it maybe in a span of 2-3 months, or reading one chapter of book, per day. And then before you know it, you're going to be done reading a whole book in about a couple of weeks. Or planning a vacation. Guess what? A few weeks later, you're going to be on that vacation. Maybe you have a heart for students or kids with hearing impairment, so you will learn an American Sign Language. I think you guys get my point. So try to utilize your spare time to do something productive. So another point, number 4, would be getting help. So if you're a student and you're losing grasp of the concepts you're learning in your classes, and these are tough classes like honors and AP classes, or even non-honors and AP classes, you've been struggling with it for a while with math and chemistry, but you just avoid these red flags and you just kind of ignore them. And, here at Elite, we're about matching you with the experienced tutor who can help you prepare for tests. We can help you instill great study habits that I've been talking about, and we can provide accountability and guidance to improve your grades. I know that I'm showing you a very fancy picture of this Elite branch. Not all Elite branches, this is a full disclaimer, will look like this, but I will guarantee you every Elite branch has a premier counselors and instructors. So I want to just encourage you guys, if you don't have anybody that can help you, please contact one of the Elite branches locally near you, okay? So I want to give you a picture right now. Imagine a scenario where your daily commuter car, like your driver, your car has 4 tires, all with barely any tread left. And despite multiple warnings by your family and friends and even your car mechanic, you got to get new tires, but you just ignore them. But you just continue to drive your car anyways. And you're just taking a chance. You're like, I'm just going to get my monies out of this tire. And one fateful day, you're driving on a snowy mountain or like a busy freeway, and your worn out tire finally explodes. And it nearly causes a fatal crash. You lose control, but you don't die. And you're sitting in your car, wrecked car, in utter shock. And what makes this picture even worse is you don't really do anything. You're just sitting there. You're not calling for help. You're just hoping that when you close your eyes, well, things will just work out. And this story is kind of crazy and ridiculous, and I was kind of hyperbolic, but it's not that dissimilar to what the students are doing right now. When they're struggling at school, they're not getting any help, and they just think that things will just get better by itself. Now, my next point is about accountability. How can you get the most out of your studies? So if you can keep yourself accountable and stay motivated, you can get so much done. So I always tell the students, are you positioning yourself in a place where you will most likely to succeed? It's like when you're at a Warriors game and you want to get your signature from your favorite player, from like Klay Thompson, that's my favorite player. You want to make sure you know where he's going to come out, and you got to position yourself. And if you're lucky, you might be able to get his signature. Now, there's a really underrated ability that you need to really learn quickly, and that is learning how to take good notes. I give you an example over here of a picture of somebody using an iPad and using something called Good Notes or Notability, but you need to learn how to take good notes because this is so important. And there's tons of videos out there on YouTube. I'm not encouraging you guys to be fixated on YouTube, but this is a good way for you to use YouTube. So I want you guys to do some research on this topic and learn to improve your note-taking ability. I want you to also write down your specific goals. Know your weak areas. Are you a morning person or night owl? Do you have weird, quirky tendencies? And based on that, find your place, put yourself in an environment where you can only succeed. Also objectively gauge your progress once in a while. Don't just keep going thinking that you're doing well. Stop. Look at what you're doing and see if you're doing it the right way. Are you efficient and effective with your study habits? I mean, you can be in a library studying for hours at end and not have things register and be absorbed. You need to I mentioned this earlier, you need to sleep at least 9 hours a day if you can. Because if you sleep well, you will feel much better. Your brain will function more optimally. Also, I would encourage you guys to find a great study group. And I'm not telling you guys to find a social gathering, so let's make sure that doesn't happen. But finding a great group of friends that you're close to who are, good at one subject or not so good, and you guys can be a good helper to each other. I think that would be really good for you guys. And lastly, don't be afraid to speak up and ask questions in class. And now there is a difference between, a good question and a bad question. And I mentioned earlier, silly questions or stupid questions. I'm not going to say that, but I did say it. I think silly questions are the ones where you make no effort to find the answers on your own, but you ask anyways for your own convenience. So I would get a question like, "Hey Walter, can you tell me what's an internship? What is that? I don't know what it is." And then I would be like, "Okay, you want to know what an internship is?" So I would explain. But in my mind, I would know this student hasn't really done any research on their own. But if they were to ask me, "Hey, Walter, I've done research on these internships, this A, B, and C. Looks like this B and C gives me more research opportunities. What do you think about this? Do you know anybody who's done this? And is there a way for me to get a great recommendation letter? And when would I be able to ask this? Because I don't want to ask too late or too early." Now, that's a question where students have done their research. Like it's the same way you wouldn't go into a car dealer and say, "I need a car. Can you tell me what car to buy?" So I want to talk about academic integrity, and this is something that is very, very important. I got a random call from a dad who is a dad of a former elite student. And I'm going to call this student X for the sake of anonymity. And this student, when this person was here, got caught cheating on our vocab quiz twice. And eventually, we had to dismiss them from our program, unfortunately. But anyways, this person got into a top tier UC school. And this dad sounded really troubled, and he wanted to ask me a question. "Mr. Kim, I don't know who I can turn to, but you know a lot about colleges, and I know you know a lot of people. You see, my child was involved in a cheating incident and was immediately dismissed 2 years ago, like a couple of years ago. And after my child took multiple community college classes for over a year and built up a good GPA, we had my child reapply to this UC and luckily got reinstated." And this one I said, "Wow, that's great. But my child got caught cheating again for the second time and got dismissed for the second time. Do you know what we can do to get her back to college?" And this is a true story. And I asked this dad, "Do you think that your child is sorry that they cheated or sorry that this person got caught?" And this father just remained silent and said, "You know what? I think I know what you're talking about." So there's a lot of students out there in a UC system or other colleges where they're getting caught cheating or getting in trouble with academic probation. It's a pretty shocking number. And even if the student were to get away or not get caught from cheating in college, what's going to happen beyond that? What if this person goes into a work culture and gets involved in a Ponzi scheme or gets involved with insider trading or tax evasion? What's the consequences of that? Right now with the COVID-19 era, the students are going to be taking an open book AP test. Both SAT College Board and ACT, they're talking about giving students a digitized test that they can take at home. And this will open up a lot of opportunities and doors for students maybe want to cheat or planning to cheat. And here at Elite, we have a small fraction of students who decide to cheat on their diagnostic test to qualify for a higher level class, or just to prove to their parents and friends that they're actually smart. And parents, they spent their hard-earned money to, on our SAT program. They want to make sure they got their money's worth. We here at Elite, we're really adamantly against cheating, and we'll do everything we can to keep our students accountable. But the fact that we're running online classes this summer, we will do everything we can to create a structure where students will less likely to cheat. But if a student is determined to cheat, I don't think we can really do anything about that. So I want to humbly urge you guys, if you have any inclination or temptation to cheat, please don't do it. You don't have to pretend to be someone that you're not. Please earn your stripes the right way. Allow us to help you and allow us to gauge your score accurately. No shortcuts here, only hard work. Academic integrity is when you do the right thing, whether someone is watching you or not. And, about a couple years ago, I accidentally lost my wallet. I dropped it on the street somewhere, and I had about $300 worth of cash. And this person was kind enough to mail my wallet just anonymously, because my license plate had my address on it, back to my house with everything intact. And I was shocked, really. I was like, man, what a person of integrity. So I have a message for you parents right now. I've noticed for the past few years, parents have been trying really their best to minimize or putting less pressure on your kids or your children. And parents are always telling me that. And parents, I know you love and know your children very well. And because of this, you want to have a concrete plan for them and purpose set for them. But ultimately, you have to allow your child to freely choose their passion and career paths. That's where trust and loving relationship can thrive. Please guide them to greener pastures, but just allow them to choose which grass they want to graze on. There's absolutely nothing wrong with parents wanting to guide their kids and provide, accountability support. But be careful, please be careful to not put external pressures and guilt to motivate them. And, myself being a parent of 2 boys, I'm very guilty of this. I've seen firsthand how this can create toxic and damaging consequences for children. And, parents could say things like, we're not one of those crazy parents who expect their kids to attend, Stanford or Harvard. I don't expect that for you. But, let's try to get you into a good UC, okay? Come on. I raised you better. And you can also help us save some money. I don't want to send you to a, really expensive private school that's low ranked. Parents will also say things like, although we can't afford it, the private schools, but there's a but. If you get into an Ivy League school or like Stanford or MIT, mommy and daddy will make it happen. We'll put out, a home equity loan or something. We'll make it happen for you. My parents, please, be consistent with what you say and be a calming and steady presence in their lives and allow them to model your behavior that they can follow. If you're saying one thing to your child, you have to live what you say. You have to preach, live out what you're preaching. Again, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite myself, and this applies to me and my wife as well. Anytime you see your kids dealing with stress, anxiety, and worries, please watch out for those kids, and even the ones who are really, really quiet and don't really show their expressions, watch out for them because they have feelings, they are just as sensitive and equally in pain. And just look at them in the eye, let them know with genuine, kind eyes and say, son, daughter, we love you and we're here for you. We're going to support you no matter what happens. And I won't disown you, promise. Please try this at home. Your time with your child is so limited. Look at the picture. Just in a short time, your children will go off to college and onto bigger and better things. Please give them the tools to survive on their own. One funny thing, my Mumford friend that I was talking about didn't even know that he could put a metal bowl in a microwave, even though he graduated from Mumford. So when it comes to college admissions, I do want to say that, we have amazing directors and assistant directors who can, counsel you and guide you. So please seek our counsel. We will make sure we give you the best information, and it will come from the good parts. We have genuine interest in your child's well-being. And I want to let the students know that, there are 5,300 colleges in America, 2,500 four-year colleges. There's a lot of options. And even if you don't do well in high school, you will have second chances. You can go to a community college and you can do well there and you can transfer. So I've seen so many amazing, successful stories where people go to a community college and end up in a great place, great career, happy lives. So here's some of the things that I've been showing to the students and parents when I meet with them. When you take the diagnostic test, I would explain, here are the things that colleges look at: your grades, your scores, and your extracurricular through your essays. We'll also show this daunting chart that shows really high, SAT scores as well as GPAs. But I realize that sometimes it's really unfair for us to, further perpetuate this cycle of college admissions where they reward the students with high grades and scores and, activities that really makes them stand out. And, as a parent, there's a lot more to our kids than just these letter grades and numbers. But I want to just tell you guys, just keep doing what you're doing, keep pedaling. If you want to learn how to ride a bike, you have to keep pedaling in order for you to learn how to ride the bike. If you stop pedaling, you won't learn how to balance. So as long as you pedal, you'll find your way to balance and you'll find the right direction. So Elite, we take pride in being your mentor, confidant, older sister, older brother. We want to equip you with the tools that will last a lifetime, not just for the time being. So I want to just end my webinar here. I hope you found the information that I shared with you helpful. The video will be uploaded to our YouTube Elite Prep page. So please check us out in a couple more days. I hope to see you guys in the summer pretty soon. Thank you.